am going to bring us up so everyone can see it. And to you, Susan.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining our conversation today to learn how a top employer in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts used their support of a cause to rally employees during what we've all experienced as an unsteady work climate due to the pandemic. My name is Susan Sarro. I'm the Executive Director here for the American Diabetes Association in New England. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know that we do want to hear from you. We do want to engage with you. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the Zoom chat, and we have dedicated some time for your questions. So let me introduce our co-panelists today. Please help me welcome Ed Ludwigson, Vice President of Sales and Operations for Staples. Ed also serves as a member of our Community Leadership Board here in New England. So welcome, Ed.
Thanks, Susan.
I also want to welcome Tim Wilson, who's our Associate Director of Development here for the American Diabetes Association in New England. So welcome to both gentlemen. Thank you for this time this morning.
Good to be here.
Awesome. So before we dive in, I just quickly want to let you, those that have tuned in, know a little bit about the mission of the American Diabetes Association. When you think of us, we're the organization that understands what it's like to live with diabetes. Diabetes is a true epidemic, and COVID hasn't helped. Think of this, 1 in 3 people in America live with diabetes right now. That's 34 million people that are diagnosed and another 80 plus million that are either undiagnosed or live with a pre-diabetes diagnosis. And unfortunately, COVID affected those living with diabetes pretty hard. 40% of deaths related to COVID were people that lived with diabetes. All of this makes our mission so important. We strive every day to help all people affected by diabetes. We want to prevent and cure diabetes, but we really want to improve the lives of all people affected by diabetes. Our core focus areas are research, advocacy, healthcare. We actually write the standards of care that help practitioners, risk awareness, and community engagement. We really provide that safe environment for people affected by diabetes to come to and to have a place that they feel like they're accepted, and also find people that understand what their condition is and what they're going through. So one thing before we move forward is that most people don't know that we also legally advocate. We support, cases of discrimination. We try more than 2,000 cases of discrimination. So if you think about that discrimination in the workplace, or a child maybe not being able to attend school, we actually address and legally advocate for those individuals. So if you're joining us today from a corporation, and something to think about is that if you think about 1 in 3 people struggling with diabetes in the workplace, that can be a significant cost in productivity. We know a person can spend anywhere between 30 to 90 minutes managing their diabetes throughout the day. If you think about your highest cost as a corporation, the insurance claims related to diabetes in the workplace are one of the highest expenditures your company will ever have, because we know that a person that lives with diabetes' expenses are 7 times higher than the average person. So the American Diabetes Association plays a very important role in keeping people informed, connected, and thriving. If you and your company would like additional information along with what we're going to present today, at the end of this presentation, we'll make sure you have a way to get in touch with us. We'd be happy to do a Diabetes 101, speak to anyone in your management team, or give you any information and tools and resources that you may need. So another way that we build our community is through signature events. We provide valuable resources and education, and our Tour de Cure is one of those signature events. So Tim, you're on deck. I want to ask you, could you give folks some insight into the role of our Tour de Cure, and also a bit about Staples' participation?
Sure. As Susan mentioned, Tour de Cure is our signature event that both raises funds and raises awareness of diabetes as we connect through our participants and our corporate and community partners. This is the 30th anniversary of Tour de Cure that we're marking this year. Now, Staples has been involved here in New England since 2015 with a tour team. And in the time from 2015 to 2019, Team Staples raised more than $270,000. That's a pretty impressive total. Makes them one of the top corporate teams in all of New England. In 2019, their effort raised more than $76,000, their highest total since they've been having a team with us. Now, Staples has had a team that came to our events in Topsfield on the North Shore location that folks came to ride and also recently run and walk. But they also put their own little twist on Tour de Cure. They created an internal spin-a-thon that allowed the employees at Staples to participate during the workday and at the home office in Framingham.
That is actually, it sounds so much fun. And, you know, Ed, workplace, health is so important. And it sounds like, Staples created this spin-a-thon. First of all, it's super creative, and it sounds like it really tapped into something special there at Staples. Can you talk a little bit about what that was and what's the spin-a-thon? How did it work?
Sure. Well, in our home office here in Framingham, Mass, where our headquarters is, we have a fitness center. And so we have a cycling studio, and we actually bring all the bikes up and put them in an area of the cafeteria that we use for events. And then we have teams compete against each other. We use 15-minute slots. We sort of donate $20 for each of the slots, and then we ride all day. And it's a blast. We've done it for years. And for us, it's a way to get a lot of people engaged, a lot of people active that aren't all riders. And we get a fun competition for the most miles, the most money, and the most creativity. And we've gotten a lot of people engaged in staying active and active for life and supporting a great cause with the American Diabetes Association. So we were, planning again to do it, and we were super excited. And then, we'll talk a little bit about how we adapted. But I think there's a little bit. I think you guys have a clip you want to share?
Yep. We're going to roll to it now. So let's look at a video from Staples that demonstrates the fun and engagement created by this spin-a-thon.
This is my funnest day in the office all year. The spin bikes will be going 9 to 5. We get to compete against each other.
The spin-a-thon to me is awesome. We work with such a tremendous group of people, and when we put our minds to something, we're rather unstoppable.
They asked me a few weeks ago if I would do it, and I said absolutely. I think it's really important to participate with your coworkers.
The spin-a-thon is fantastic. They make it fun.
Everyone's really competitive, maybe a little type A, and our good competitive side comes out, and the team spirit.
I think it builds camaraderie, and it helps us think about what we can do besides just going to work every day and how it affects the communities that we all live in. And it takes the company and it kind of raises people to believe that it's not just about business, but it's also about doing good.
We bring the event here. It makes it possible for so many more people to be involved who may not be able to come out to our event on May 19th.
The big event that we do with them is the Tour de Cure, which is a ride, and then they just added a walking or running component. It is a phenomenal event, and it kind of reminds you what the power of an organization like Staples can do when we throw our weight behind something.
They're fantastic because they have internal champions who take the lead. They're very proactive. They're incredibly organized. They're a role model as far as I'm concerned for a Tour de Cure corporate team.
I find the ADA just to be an amazing organization, really helping people with diabetes and trying to find a cure for a disease that supports 30 million people in the United States.
My dad was a diabetic, and so I had a little bit of a personal history with it, and I saw what a toll it took on him.
Diabetes is an everyday reality for people, whether they have type 1 or type 2. They have to constantly be monitoring themselves. That's one of the more difficult parts of it.
And it really wears on your organs and your body, and I watched him lose some of his eyesight. In fact, he only lived till he was like 64 years old because of it. So personally, I also have a bit of a connection, and it makes me feel good that I can be part of this.
I think we're on track to raise almost double what we raised last year.
Staples does such a tremendous job of raising awareness and raising funds right here inside the company so we can make a difference in lives.
Wow, that looked like so much fun. And it was so great to see different departments come together and have a great time. You guys are a pretty competitive bunch, I would say. So we all know that things changed in 2020 and we had to convert events, into virtual events. And, COVID provided a pretty challenging environment, especially, from a public health and safety, especially for those that we serve with diabetes. And so Tim, we went virtual last year. So let's help the folks that are tuning in understand, like, what did we do to turn virtual? And then we'd love to hear from Ed on what they did to turn that effort virtual, because we really want to get the people that are tuning in an opportunity to figure out how they could do something like this. So what did we do to go virtual?
Well, obviously, with the pandemic, we couldn't have our usual event that would bring close to 1,000 people together at our start finish location. So what we did in response to this, we created a remote format, which was the virtual tour. And we really worked as a part of this to build a virtual community where we could not only have our fundraising event, but to share information and resources about diabetes, about how people with diabetes were impacted by COVID. At the same time, also, we made our virtual event a way for people to come together while they were apart, but in a manner that encouraged them to stay physically active, which was really important at this time, and to continue to support people living with diabetes.
So basically they could walk, ride, or run wherever they wanted, right? I mean,
it was no time barrier, no geographic barrier, wherever you were, whatever you wanted to do, whenever you wanted to do it.
Yeah. So Ed, thinking that we all had to adapt, and I know people tuning in right now are thinking, like, how would we do something like this? Like, how do we pull it all together? What did Staples do when, the world was in lockdown, employees everywhere working remotely? Now employees are starting to maybe come together for the first time. Talk to us about, your thoughts on the Spin-a-thon, and what can folks do that you all did when you were in this kind of, virtual situation?
Yeah, thanks, Susan. Certainly, we did have a lot of fun that day. And I mentioned on the video, it's one of my funnest days in the year, but we weren't in the office. And so we were trying to figure out, okay, when are we coming back? And it was clear we weren't going to be back for a little bit. And so when the ADA went virtually, we said, what could we do? And there was this real idea of it was a really focused on Framingham, Mass, event. We have associates all around the country in warehouses, drivers, as well as in our sales teams, which I support. So we really wanted to get them involved. And so we said, all right, how could we do this? ADA has made it super easy to register teams, no minimums on fundraising, no registration fees, and we could create teams outside of our home office. I can still get the traditional folks like the finance team against the sales teams, against the marketers and supply chain, but could I also get regional sales teams? Could I get the FC in North Carolina to participate? And so we started to work through a little bit of champions, and we said, we could do this again. We know there's a group of people excited to try this, and we all wanted to get out and do something fun as a team. We were a little bit isolated. And so we started to say, hey, could we pull this off with the ADA's support? And we set a goal for $25,000 and see if we could. I think we were hoping for maybe 100 people to participate. And we were surprised. We got a really great response, but great support.
That was going to be my next question, So what was the response? And I want to know, was it hard to get champions? Was it tough to find people that wanted to step up to this, No,
it was, actually, we were really surprised. We had over 38 teams register. We had over 370 people, participate across 25 states. And we had thought about what would be a fun way to do it. So Staples is in Framingham, but the Staples Center, that many of you see on ESPN, is in LA. And we're like, could we actually bike or run or walk? Could we get enough miles there? So we actually had the teams compete for a week. It was super easy to get people engaged. We had our historic champions that would be in the home office, but we did some internal communications, made it really easy through the ADA to register. And then we sort of had that grassroots sort of feel who wanted to get engaged. So we had teams of 2 people, we had teams of 30, 40 people, and it was all over the board. And then a local champion just checking in, not a lot of effort, but a lot of fun and a lot of engagement in a time where we all needed to come together and really creative and supporting a great cause with the ADA.
So I see the map, and I don't know if Tim can tell us the significance of the map, but was that visual super helpful?
Well, we wanted to make it real in some sense. So we actually plotted using Google Maps and a cycling route This is exactly the route you'd take if you took a bike. And what these folks did was amazing. They were shooting for a little over 3,200 miles to make it to the West Coast. They more than doubled it. They get just shy of 6,600 miles. Enough for a round trip back to Staples in Framingham with a victory lap around New England. And on top of that, they raised more than $31,000. So they exceeded their goal in that as well. It was really something else.
Yeah. So, and I think we talked about somebody with skateboarding. Like, wasn't that kind of fun? Somebody tracked their skateboarding miles.
Yeah, we had somebody skateboarding. We had, people in our FCs clocking their miles as they walked and did a lot of heavy lifting and shifts. We had all sorts of people do all sorts of things, and we converted it. I see you got the collage up. And on the day of the tour, so I'm a tour rider, I'm a cyclist. I live about 15 miles away from our home office. And so I cycled in that day, just like I would do a few days a year. I don't do it a lot, but I do it occasionally. And I had my tour garb on. We'd given out a fun little gift as I had a gator on with the Staples logos on it. And it was fun. You had a few of my colleagues out and about all over the country with their friends and family, contributing. And it was a lot of fun. So we were excited to be able to contribute. And it was a good pick me up and a great engagement. I think for the employers that are out there, really team engagement. You can see not everybody is a cyclist, but we wanted to get lots of people engaged, being active. As Susan said, it's really important for our associates' health, but also just great for teamwork and camaraderie, and gives opportunity to kind of engage with each other a little bit outside of the day-to-day workplace.
Awesome. So let's go to some questions. I have one question here as it relates to, I think, Tim, this might be for you. So how does somebody register or sign up? How easy is that? And how do they work with you?
Well, it starts off by creating a team, and we have step-by-step directions that I provide, and I'm also always available. And these days, thanks to things like here we are with Zoom, I put together an orientation for teams and can walk them through the sign-up process. It's really, we're here as a partner, and we're available with any questions folks have. I've been doing this a few years, so pretty much if you've encountered a problem, I have encountered it too. So we're really a partner in this, and it's a lot of it comes down to communication and making sure that we're responsive, and that's what we really pride ourselves on.
I think one thing that Ed had said that's key for people tuning in is that we have made this virtually free to participate. And, in a virtual climate, our real goal is to bring the community together. So, Tim, can you just talk a little bit about like the registration, like, the fees, things like that people can really understand the nuts and bolts and why people may want to do something like this?
Well, last year with our first virtual tour, and again this year we're again in a virtual event, there is no registration fee. There is no fundraising minimum. We ask folks to contribute at whatever level they can. And a lot of what we're trying to do is just reach a lot of folks, which this new format allows us to do. And everything's online. It's very simple to just click through. We also provide you tools for sending emails, to connecting on Facebook. Things have come a long way from when I first started this and you ran around the office with a piece of paper writing down names and pledges. It's as interactive and online as you can imagine.
Yeah.
So we have one question here. Oh, sorry, Ed, go ahead.
Go for it, Susan.
No, yeah. Just going to say, somebody was saying something and asking about, do your stores get involved? They want to know if your local stores also get involved.
Yeah, we did have a few store teams. We do have our retail business, and they are engaged and involved. And this is very much a grassroots effort. So we do try to tap into places for all over Staples. So there are some individual store teams. But I was going to comment on Tim's piece. Our teams are actually up on the website, and we can see them. And then as they compete, they get members get added. You get individual links. So if you're a team captain, you can kind of share with your my sales ops teams, and they can kind of share. There are people who support riders or runners. There's people who walk. Walking was a big thing for folks last year. So a lot of people competed. But the support and the technology is really good for kind of getting the word out. And at ADA is great. They're even invested in mobile tools, but I think we're getting a little closer on time. So yep. I think maybe we're ready to open it up for some questions.
Yep. I was taking some questions from chat, so we had a couple in the chat there.
Fire away.
Yep. So I would say one other question people want to know before we go to the tracker. Tim, we'll go to you in just a sec.
Sure.
Is, how did you organize it was one of the questions, Ed. Is there some guidance you could give on how you guys figured out or carved out the time for this activity?
Yeah, there is. I mean, it's a kind of a little bit of effort from a lot of folks. And so we sort of do about a half hour every 2 weeks. And we try to just kind of get a few champions that are engaged and then sort of spread it out a little bit. We have a wellness champion here in our company who tries to do this. This is kind of part of their job. And so there's usually somebody, if you're at a bigger place, that kind of gets engaged. But we did it mostly grassroots with a little bit of effort. And we also tapped into our internal communications. We asked one of our leaders to kind of help us be a little bit of a sponsor, give us a quote. And so it's a little bit of effort, a little bit in advance. That was the biggest feedback from our field. Can you start earlier? Because it kind of came together quick. And can we get them involved a little bit earlier? So that was something we're trying to do. But we do have a little touch base and sort of a small committee. And it's sort of like maybe a group that would put together a 5K or do a fundraiser or a diversity and inclusion event. And it's just something a little bit extra, but with a little bit of organization, you can actually tap into a lot of folks. And then it's those small champions that bring 10 people together, that bring 5 people together, that add up to the 380.
So Ed, someone's asking, how do I get my employees engaged when they don't seem to participate in much? And you and I have talked about this before.
I think it's super important for that local person. And like I said, the ADA makes it easy to start a team. So I'm actively recruiting champions right now. So I know folks that are influencers and folks that have good relationships and say, hey, we're going to participate. We're going to start a team. And it's an email that goes out to 8 people or 12 people, or you kind of get it plugged on your team meeting. And you're trying to get a few early adopters and to share it. But there is the broad messaging that helps. But for those folks that you're trying to bring along, they surprise you. And so it's small groups is what I would advocate, and try to figure out who are those people that do participate and see if they can kind of share and model the way. And the ADA, because they make it easy to register, I did have some teams that a person registered. They got one other team member and it didn't take off, but that's okay. We're going to try to get them back in. And so that's where I would say, look for people who want to be there and then support them. So we do this bi-weekly because it's hey, what else do you have ideas about? And you kind of share ideas.
I love that. I love that.
I might add one thing we learned through the experience of virtual last year and what we were all living in different environment that helped to get more people engaged is, don't forget, remember all those new coworkers that we picked up last year? There was your spouse, your kids, the dog. They can all be a part of it in a virtual tour. You don't have to worry about there's a little league or a soccer game the same day that the tour is taking place. It doesn't matter. You can go out with your family whenever it works for you, and do whatever it is that works. So that's kind of meeting people where they are helps with getting more folks on board. They don't have to fit with what you're doing when you're doing it. They can work around their life.
Yeah, I would just add, the ADA can also help raise the level of consciousness a little bit about diabetes. So one thing we do is we'll do a Diabetes 101. If you ever wanted us to do a webinar or, do any kind of education in your workplace, we can do that. And that sometimes sparks somebody that wants to do something. So Tim can absolutely set that up with any company that's tuning in today. Even whether you do the tour or not, we'd be happy to do some kind of educational programming in your company. So I know we're just about 5 minutes out, and I think I see some more chat. Let's go back to the chat. I think we get this answered. Can you set your Apple Watch up in sync and track mileage? Tim, that is teed up for you.
Absolutely. You can use an Apple Watch. You can use Google Fit. Those trackers that we were showing you a little bit before, they sync with that to your registration, also to Strava, so that, whereas Ed and his team last year, they were tracking all their miles on an Excel sheet. No need to do that anymore. With our mobile app, by using things like your Apple Watch and Google Fit and Strava, it connects to your registration, and as a part of our mobile app, your activity will show up and it'll track your activity, your miles, as well as your teams and how as we do as a tour. So we've got a lot of competition between individuals, teams, And I will add this, we want to beat every other tour in the country in terms of the total miles that we log. So yeah, having it connected to the device provides a little more motivation. There's also, little badges you can earn. And on the day of the event, which will be August 22nd, we kind of went with a simple version of Staples. We're not going across the country, but we created a little virtual route so people can see how they progress on it during the day based on the amount of activity they're doing.
It's such a great enhancement because so many people wear their wearable devices. So many people are tracking their steps. So many people just are into like the new technology. They love badges. So I was so happy when we added that component to our and technology to our event. So Tim, someone asked the magic question. Can you tell somebody right now what website to go to? Because someone's like, how do I register? Which means they need to know where to go. So
all right.
We got 3 more minutes. So if you can help us with that, that'd be great.
So as you can see here on the screen, to join us on the New England Tour de Cure, it's diabetes.org/TDC New England. And for any of you joining us from outside New England, you're of course welcome to be a part of the New England Tour because geography is not a barrier, but we also have a national Tour de Cure that's diabetes.org/TDC nationwide. And we've got events in other parts of the country that I'd be happy to connect you with the event leaders there so that you could start up your team. I'd love to have you all here in New England so we can log all those miles and beat everybody else, but whatever works for you, we're happy.
And you can ring Tim's cell phone number all you want on that number there.
Yep.
So, Ed, I'd love before we close, just for you to give folks some final thoughts. Like what was gained here? What happened as a result of you all doing this last year or all the years? What was some lessons learned or?
Yeah, I think culture is such an important part of a company and a team and where you spend your time. And when you're away, it's like hard to build those cultures. This is one of our cultural touchstones for us. And it was great to take it out and expand it. And I think engagement is critical. The other thing I would say to folks considering a team, I know during the pandemic, we were like, can we do this? Can we pull it off? And you can. It's not a ton of effort and you get great support from Tim and the ADA. It made it really easy to do. And so I see, Tim's contact info there. I definitely support you if you're thinking about trying to do something, but you can also start small. We didn't have 300, plus riders our first year. And there's just little ways to do it and then build some momentum. And then you get people coming back and wanting to do it again. And for anybody that wants to think about, I had a great question on how do you get champions? Happy to share my experience and talk to you about your individual situation. And I definitely recommend reaching out to Tim and Susan. The ADA is a great partner and a great cause that impacts so many people. So, but for us, a ton of engagement, doing good for a great community and bringing our people together and really reinforcing our culture.
I really appreciate you saying that it can start small. We're not expecting everyone to do what Staples has done over their 7-year experience with us, but I think it's a nice way to see how employees have come together, how you guys pivoted, and I really want to thank you and Tim today for sharing, the tour experience with folks that tuned in. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We're at the top of the hour and we want to honor your time. If you're interested in learning more, Tim's information is on the screen and please get in touch with us. You can also go to our website. We look forward to helping and seeing everybody virtually and then seeing you in person in 2022. So thank you everyone so much for your time today and have a great day, everyone. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Hope to see you on tour.